How's it going, everybody? So we're back talking some more Season 3 of Chucky on the channel, Episode 7. We're already at the penultimate episode of Season 3. And I have to ask, how are all of you holding up after the insanity that was the conclusion of Episode 6? Unsure of the direction the story would go now, given that Chucky launches a nuke, then dies. But have no fear, as this episode does have its fair share of big surprises as well, leading into the finale. Even though we did see Chucky die, we do know that there is a lot of surrealism, supernatural angles at play in Season 3. We're already teased that Brad Dourif was going to carry on as Charles Lee Ray. It was very interesting watching Charles venture through the spirit realm that's set within the White House, even getting to see some reappearances of previous Chucky victims. I thought that was a real nice touch. The funniest detail of them all was seeing all the different paintings and sculptures in the White House, now with Chucky's face plastered all over all of them. The section that follows this was one that had me very excited as a lifelong fan of this franchise, and I'm sure many other people were excited as well at the prospect, after all the years we've heard about Dumbala this, Dumbala that, finally we would actually get to see Dumbala in the flesh, so to speak. What does Dumbala even look like? Who's playing Dumbala? So not gonna lie, I was a little bit underwhelmed when Chucky walks into Dumbala's office and it's just a Chucky doll sitting behind the chair. They do give a good enough explanation on why Dumbala looks the way that he does. It's the kind of trope we see in a lot of media with religious figures. Dumbala can really look like anything, he just usually takes the form of whatever the person speaking to him reveres most, in a way that is hilarious in how it plays into Chucky's narcissism. That the one thing that Chucky would revere most is himself, of course. This face-to-face meeting between the two of them is a fascinating one because it gives us a lot of answers that we've been wondering about Season 3 on why exactly Dumbala still refuses to give Chucky his power back. I definitely wasn't expecting Dumbala to just sit there and roast Chucky the entire time, telling him that he lacks passion and originality in how he kills people these days. An argument I don't necessarily agree with. There have been some kills throughout even just these 3 seasons of the show that I think have been incredibly creative and brutal, but I'm not Dumbala, so maybe he has another metric as far as judging creativity with your kills. Surprisingly, though it seemed like maybe this truly was the end for Chucky, it wasn't the end after all. Dumbala's gonna give him one final chance to make it up to him and prove to him that he deserves his power back, with a stipulation that's a little bit unconventional for this franchise. Like I said before, we're leaning a lot more into the supernatural elements now. Obviously, Chucky is dead. He doesn't have a body anymore, so that's gonna make things a little bit more difficult on killing people. Chucky manages to kill people without even having a body in a creative way. He'll be back in good standing with Dumbala. Definitely a wild premise to consider going forward. Ghost Chucky roaming around the White House trying to kill people opens up a lot of interesting possibilities. As she sorely was missed amongst all the chaos last week, we are finally dipping back into Tiffany's story. A big thing that I wondered back when we saw her give that pep talk to Chucky in episode 5 was, why is she still in prison? We had seen over time that she slowly has been taking over everybody with voodoo dolls from her cell. Her cell looked genuinely pretty nice with all the stuff strewed about it, so why was she still here? Why did she not break out of prison? We find out that she hasn't controlled everybody inside of the prison. She has one more person left to go, and that's why she's stuck here still. One person left is conveniently the sniper right outside of the prison. And time really is running out for Tiffany on death row. She doesn't have very much time left. It's only exacerbated more by the guard taking her out of her cell to prepare her for lethal injection. Now, for me personally, all of the cronies we've seen Tiffany amass in the prison, I didn't think any of them were all that interesting or great, though one of them had the biggest laugh, in my opinion, of the entire episode. That's when Tiffany sends one of the guards to follow the sniper home to his house, only for him to just get completely obliterated by a car. In the most over-the-top fashion. Like, there's no way a car should be speeding that way down a residential neighborhood. Inevitably, we do get back into the story in the White House, and I feel so bad whenever we cut back to the White House. Every single time, it's always something horrible that happens because Chucky is the worst thing, arguably, that has ever came into the White House. That's even besides the point of the internal struggles inside for power. It continues to be really frustrating in how Price keeps finding new ways to be such a vile person, actually locking up the trio and Grant inside of their room and spinning this story to give the vice president power by making up a story that says the fake Devon Sawa, the president, has brain cancer. So he has to step down and relinquish power to the vice president, which is awful in of itself, but then you add on the fact that Joseph, the son of the Collins, died of cancer. Out of all 3 seasons of Chucky, I think by far Price is the one I've wanted to see killed by Chucky the most, and yet still, it has not happened yet. Seriously though, I feel so bad for both Grant and Henry having to process all this trauma inflicted upon them by Chucky. By now, we've seen the same process over and over again throughout the franchise, where Chucky kills someone close to you and you have to kind of cope with that grief in real time. Arguably, Henry's getting it the worst out of everyone in season 3, because Chucky has to be an asshole and walk up to Henry as a ghost and jump scare him and mess him up even more. On the bright side, there is kind of a silver line to the situation with the Collins. Finally, after all this time, they do manage to break the hell out of the White House and get the hell out of there, except for Grant because he chooses to stay behind. I wouldn't necessarily say this is a happy ending for the Collins family. They still have to deal with a lot of grief and trauma going forward. At least they get the hell out of here while all this crap is going down with Chucky in the White House. During all this, I almost forgot to bring up the fact that they did invite the medium to the White House, the one that was teased in the last episode. Definitely an oddball of a character. I mean, his abilities do seem legit, though he is kind of cringy, joking about stuff like Taylor Swift. Not gonna lie though, the jump scare here with Chucky did get me a little bit. I was not expecting it. With the parapsychologist here though, it does give us the best explanation possible for why all this paranormal insanity is happening in the White House. I kid you not, according to them, the White House appears to be a place where the line between the living and the dead is super thin, so that's why you're seeing all these different souls inside the White House. Many of them being souls that are trying to warn everybody about what Chucky's doing. Even President Collins, who we know is here because he jump scared his wife in last week's episode, giving us a fun surprise message to the trio and Grant through the machine that they brought. Seriously though, out of everyone that President Collins could haunt inside the White House, I think Bryce and them are the people he needs to exact his wrath on. I'm still in disbelief that they're going through with this entire plan and faking President Collins having brain cancer, hooking him up to all these different machines and delivering this address. I don't know about you guys, but it seemed kind of obvious to me that the exact moment it was that address, they were going to make him disappear, i.e. kill him. Because why would you want that loose thread out there in the world, this President Collins lookalike walking around? Ever since earlier on, they brought up that Chucky is going to have to kill somebody in the White House, even though he doesn't have a physical body, he's a ghost. There's this lingering anxiety in the air on who exactly he's going to exact his wrath on within the White House amongst this cast of characters. Because he has to be creative, I had to imagine it was going to be something very interesting in store. Trying to go for the kill, filling up the elevator with blood, drowning both the Secret Service guy, but more importantly, Devon Sawa. They found a way to kill Devon Sawa twice in this season. It's kind of a toss-up on which death you prefer for Devon Sawa in season 3. Do you prefer the more creative, flashy death where he gets drowned to death in a pool of blood inside of an elevator? Or do you like the more brutal, visceral kill where Chucky bites his cheek and then gouges his eyeballs out? I'm very curious down below, which of the Devon Sawa deaths do you prefer? Given the circumstances, all the things they've seen around them in the White House, I kind of understand why they're choosing to go forward and do this seance in an attempt to get Chucky to move on and heal in a way from what causes him to be violent. But at the end of the day, we all know that this attempt is going to be pointless. We as an audience know how Chucky is, and we know that this is just a waste of time. Obviously, the seance doesn't work, though it is a pretty cool seance nonetheless. Mostly from the point where Chucky arrives to the seance and takes control of the situation. Again, I'm reminded because we are actually seeing Brad Dourif on screen. That's how phenomenal of an actor he is. You have to remember, he is an Academy Award nominated actor. He honestly steals the show of the entire sequence. He's so captivating while antagonizing everybody in the seance, all the while unleashing supernatural hell upon them like bloody rain. You seriously can tell that Chucky took those comments to heart on being more creative with his kills, because he definitely does that more so here as opposed to in the blood-filled elevator. After raining down blood on everyone and getting them soaking wet, he goes and decides of all things to throw a speaker at them, electrocute a bunch of people. Thankfully, the trio and Grant are okay. We do lose a couple people that I wasn't that interested in to begin with, like the Vice President, Dr. Lindstrom. I believe that's the press secretary, if I'm not mistaken. Like I said, characters that I don't really care that much about, and they weren't that important to the overall story this season. By this point, though, everything is going off the deep end leading into that finale next week, alternating between both the White House plotline and the Tiffany plotline. She even has a little bit of an audience for her execution, mostly people that we don't know, but one predominantly we do know, and that is Nika. You had to know that Nika was going to be front and center to watch Tiffany be executed. Even if she is very excited to watch Tiffany die, there is some sweetness because she is relaying messages from Gigi before she's executed, saying to Tiffany that Gigi said that she was a wonderful mother and that she always tried to protect them and they'll always love her, only for Nika to add on at the very end that Nika knows the truth about Tiffany and that she's gonna burn in hell. So a little bit of a give and take. I can understand where Nika's coming from given the fact that Tiffany chopped off both of her arms and legs. But seriously though, we are setting up some big things going into the finale, like Tiffany's lethal injection and the crazy plan that Jake has in store to try and stop Chucky, deciding to volunteer to briefly die, travel through the spirit realm, and thanks to Chucky's soul being splintered, once Jake gets to the spirit realm, he hopes to go in there and find good Chucky, get him to sacrifice sacrifice himself and things once and for all this time, so Chucky goes away permanently. Conclusion, I can imagine the fans and myself being nervous going into the finale, concluding things in episode 7, priming both Tiffany and Jake for their injection, though Jake's is supposed to be temporary. Tiffany's is supposed to be permanent. She's actually supposed to die. I have a very strong feeling that a lot of you are going to be on edge leading into that finale next week, so yeah, make sure you share your thoughts down below. How'd you feel about episode 7, the penultimate episode of season 3? Did you like the episode? Did you not like the episode? How'd you feel about all the revelations here? And if you have any predictions on where we're going to go in episode 8, the finale next week, I'd love to hear those down below in the comments as well. Thank you guys, as always, checking out the videos. I always do appreciate it. Make sure you like on the video and also subscribe to the channel to update reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. But next time, I'll see you guys later.